Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's March 31st, 2020. The rain has let up, only a small sprinkle today. But I'm over here in the western garden plot, the area on the west side of the workshop and all. And one of the things I did this last season, last spring this year, all of these permanent raised beds, we started hardwood cuttings in. And I guess Timmy's going to visit. And what I did do was, and I'll show you in a minute, we took some hardwood cuttings from some flamingo, tricolored variegated willow bushes, pussy willows, elderberry plants, hostaberries, red currants, black currants, pink currants, did I say hostaberries, gooseberries, two different types of gooseberries, and we have some blueberry plants over there as well. And those are the hardwood cuttings that I put into this garden this time last year. Very successful. I used an overhead water irrigation, a sprinkler system, two sprinkler heads that fed this system. And they got watered just about every day, and sometimes twice a day during the real hot times. And the plants all did really, really well. And the last couple of days, yesterday, I came through and started digging up some of the elderberry plants. The first thing I did was I used my big loppers, and I'll show you those in just a moment. And they're a bypass lopper as opposed to an anvil type lopper. And the bypass lopper is really good for cutting green wood. If it's dead wood, then you want to use an anvil lopper. But I used the bypass lopper to cut off all of the limbs so that I could get it cut right down to, about 4 inches, 5 inches above ground level. And then I went through with the spade, dug up many of the elderberry plants, and I'll show you that next. Okay, so these are the bypass loppers that I talked about. Loppers because they're a big pair of pruning shears. So this is a pruning shears. These are bypass. Bypass means that the cutting edge of the blade goes past or beyond the non-sharpened edge. So when the unit goes through, it cuts and it actually passes all the way through the wood that you're cutting and comes out the other side. As opposed to an anvil type pruning shear or loppers, that's where the sharp blade comes up and just ends right at the hard steel of the other side of the unit. So these loppers really come in very handy, and the hand shears also come in quite handy. And Timmy, come on, Timmy, keeps climbing up on me. So here's one of the elderberry limbs that came off of the elderberry plants that I just cut up. And I'll post in the upper right-hand corner a link to the plant propagation series. And last year at about this time is when we started a video about these hardwood cuttings. And so the plants that I'm going to show you now, the rooted cuttings, came from a stick that looks just like this 1 year ago. So what I do is, where the buds are emerging off of the plant, I cut just below that point. And I like to have two of the regions where the buds are coming out to go underneath the soil surface. Now, if the internodal space, the space in between where the buds and the leaves come out at, if that's a long space, that means you're sticking it in the ground quite a ways. If you don't want to have a real hassle digging these out, and Timmy's done with me right now, just put one of the buds underneath the soil surface, because the roots will really come out of these ones really, really well. Some hardwood cuttings, they don't callus over quite as well as these do, and they don't have as much root hormone, and they can be more of a challenge. But elderberries and all of your willow varieties and your ribes, your gooseberries and your currants and hostaberries, they all develop really good roots as a result. Then what I do, once I cut off the bottom edge there, I stick it into the soil about this far, and roots will emerge from this section and this section. And then I'll leave two sets of buds just in case I damage one, and cut just above the other one so that I leave these buds all in good shape, just in case something happens to these buds here. The limbs will come out here, leaves will come out here, and the branches will come out from here. It'll be cut off right here, and roots will come out from these two sections. So I'll show you some of the ones that I just pulled out of the ground. So here's one here, and with the spade what I do is I try to cut these off pretty short. I didn't cut this one off, but they really develop tremendous roots. This one I only put down to that one bud that I talked about, where the buds were coming out. So I only went down that far, and the callus is right here at the base of this one. But they really do develop great roots. So that's one example. Here's another example, and this is where two of the buds, so you may be able to see that there's a whole range of roots coming out of where the bud was right here, and a whole range of roots coming out from the bud here. There's actually the internodal space is where my hand is. So you can see the two regions, and that's probably overkill. But I didn't know how it would work in these raised beds, and since they were watered regularly, they really came on like gangbusters, and these things for the most part were over 6 feet tall. I would recommend going further spacing. I'll put some GoPro footage of me digging these out, following this, and pruning them and then digging them out. And you know, I created more work for myself by having one internodal space in between, because there are a lot more roots developed. If I were putting this into a really rocky area and that wasn't going to get as much rain, I'd do it just like I did with this one. 2 sets of buds with one internodal space and stick it in that far with the hopes of some roots coming out of at least 2 of those buds. So I ended up getting 2 full wheelbarrows full, heaping wheelbarrows full. Unfortunately, because of this infectious disease, the people that I was growing them for aren't going to come and get them this year, unfortunately. I've had a few people call. I had one person just pick up a couple of them, or 2 people pick up just a couple of them. But because of the self-quarantine and all, right now it's a bit of a hassle. Not a good time to be selling plants and all. So what'll follow here is just some GoPro footage of me first going through and lopping off the tops of some of these elderberry plants and then digging them up as well. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I check out the plant propagation list. It's a list of videos. It's a playlist. Unfortunately, there's other videos I've done on plant propagation, but I never found them to add them to the playlist. But at least you can go back and see 1 year ago, I think it was March of 2019, when I first put these ones in the ground, and you can see the series over time in the Western garden plot, just how these ones developed over time as well. So if you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and by all means, folks, stay safe and think about getting some gardens in. Maybe just some perennial plants like elderberry plants or gooseberries or blueberries or strawberries or raspberries, whatever it is. Just start off trying to get some sort of plants for food security. Take care, folks, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.